Hello again, everybody. It is time once again for Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and the people who love it. I am joined by previous guest Jon Lamoreaux from the Hustle podcast. We've done shows before on love songs for Valentine's Day and wake up songs.
That's
And
right.
Jon, I love interacting with you online, and I wanted to have you back on. So welcome back.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for asking.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Howard Jones today because I know you're a fan. I'm a fan. I got the shirt at the show
Yes.
recently. He is touring for his 40th anniversary of Dream into Action, which was his real breakthrough album here in the U.S. And here it is, the CD version. But I had it first on cassette from
Mm.
Elektra Records, and I had the US version. So we're going to talk about this album, but we're going to go through it track by track in a little bit. We're going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about the US version and the differences between the UK version and some of the
Hmm.
songs. I know you're familiar with all the songs that were
Hmm.
recorded for both versions. So we're going to do that because it's the 40th anniversary. It's a great album. Came out in 1985. Rupert Hine was the producer, and you have had him on your show. A great guest. You've had him on a couple times, and very interesting guy, fantastic producer, and
Yeah.
was really involved in some of the great albums of all time. But I wanted to first ask you to remind our listeners where they can find the Hustle podcast and what sort of your show is about.
So we've been around for a little over 10 years now, and I do long form interviews with my favorite artists. Um, I thought that we might be ending once we hit 10 years back in May because I was kind of running out of people to talk to, people that interested me anyway. And, but thankfully, it just kept going. And so we'll just keep going as long as there's interesting people to talk to. It started out as focusing on probably more obscure bands, people who had like moments in the sun. Maybe they were signed to a major label. Maybe they put out one album. Maybe they had one hit. Maybe they played on David Letterman or their video was on 120 minutes once or something like that. And what do you do when you go from nothing to something and then back to nothing again? What I found, thankfully, is that it became easier than I thought it would be to get people to talk to me. And so it's just sort of evolved over time. Um, One of the key factors is how do you make a living, um, you know, as a musician. But as I've gotten to blessedly talk to bigger names, it's pretty obvious how they make a living. They still have their royalties or they still tour or whatever. So I just like to hear fun rock and roll stories, you know? I mean, I think you're probably like me, Mike. I'll read any book on any band, whether I like them or not. I'll watch any documentary on any band, whether I like them or not, because I just can't get enough of great rock and roll information, you
Yeah.
know? And so I hope that I'm kind of the Mark Maron of rock podcasts because I'm just trying to just add, patches to that quilt of rock. So it just keeps getting more and more interesting.
Yeah.
That's my hope anyway.
Well, I think you've been doing it a long time, and you've put out a great body of work, and people can go, and if they haven't discovered your podcast now, then there's a whole treasure trove of back episodes for them to listen to. But talking about Howard Jones, one of the things I like about you too is that I can talk to you about is that you like some of the more obscure artists that I like. Maybe they weren't
Mhm.
obscure everywhere, but here in the U.S. they were obscure. Like a band like Ice House is relatively
Mm,
unknown here, big country. Everybody knows their big hit, but maybe don't have deep dives into them. And
yeah.
and Tony Carey, a favorite of mine, and people like
Ooh,
Martin Briley,
yes.
you know.
Yes, I love them both.
So, so that's what I like about you is this is somebody you're somebody that speaks my language. So I wanted to
Good.
talk to you about Howard Jones because I knew you had to be a Howard fan.
Mhm.
When did you first become aware of Howard? Was it through MTV or was it some other way?
It was actually through Friday night videos. I
Okay.
remember, you remember, I would stay up late when I was a little kid to watch Friday night videos. Most weekends I made it, and then it was another hurdle to stay awake for the entire show because it was like an
Mhm.
hour and a half. And I remember at the very end, they would play some of the more obscure stuff at the end of the show. And at the end of the show, they kept pitching, and then coming up next, Howard Jones with new song. And I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy. And then when the video came on, I recognized the song from having heard it on the radio. And I would have been like 11, something
Mhm.
like that, 11 years old. And I just liked it. And I liked What Is Love, and that was the next song you heard on the radio. And then I liked Pearl in the Shell, and that was the next song you heard on the radio. And I'm the oldest in my family, so my cousin Rick served that older sibling role in my life. That the guy who knows everything before you and kind of
Mhm.
tells you what's cool and passes it down. My cousin Rick did that for me, and he had the record of Humans Lib, and I immediately just loved it. And I've paid attention ever since. And listeners of my podcast know, because I've said this a billion times, I'm from Salt Lake City. And for whatever reason, he is still huge in Salt Lake City. He'll do tours. I'm going to see him this weekend. He'll do a tour where he'll play little clubs everywhere, but he'll make sure to fit in a show in Salt Lake because he's going to sell out like a baseball stadium,
Mhm.
or an outdoor amphitheater or something like that. I I had him on my podcast. We talked about this. He's not exactly sure why that's the case. I'm not either. He thinks it might be because of the optimism that's in his lyrics. That might be some of it. I see it more as a lack of snark or sarcasm than I do like Pollyanna optimism.
Mhm.
Maybe something about lacking snark appeals to Mormons. I'm not sure. But we've just embraced Howard, always has, and he knows it. It's like a second home to him.
Well, Howard is all of the things you say. He's an optimistic guy. It what struck me about Howard Jones, and we'll talk a little bit more about it, is how much more depth there is to his songs than I initially thought. I found him through MTV, New Song, What Is Love, loved it, and I was starting to get into a lot of more synth pop at that
Mm-hmm.
time. There were a lot of bands coming out that I sort of, I was getting into synthesizer music. And when Things Can Only Get Better came out, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I've got to go and make a purchase. I've got to go and spend money and
Mm-hmm.
dive deeper. And I'm glad I did. Of course, that cassette, I wore that thing out and came out in 1985. Played the crap out of it. Played it in the car. Played it in my boombox. Just didn't have a big hi-fi stereo or anything, but it was convenient. Everywhere I went, that one went. That was because you had a finite amount of space. I bought the biggest cassette case carry case that you could buy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it
Mm-hmm.
held like 200 or 250,
Mm-hmm.
but still that was a subset of your whole music collection. So the
Of
ones that
course.
stayed in there all the time, those were the ones that you were really passionate about.
Oh, I feel this so strongly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you would
Yeah.
okay, the ones on this side, these don't come out, and then these ones
Uh-huh.
will change out and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yes.
um so Dream into Action came out in 85, like I said, and the one that you buy in the store now, if you buy the CD or the record, it might not have the same track listing as you had then. um the UK and the US, like I said, had very, I would say, very different track lists, but there were some changes, especially because in the UK, he put out a couple of singles, and those, or a single and a B side. The single and the B side both made the US version,
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of an interesting situation there. But the the thing that really kind of drew me in to Things Can Only Get Better was that happiness, that joy
Mm-hmm.
in the music, and also the message of, I was a, I mean, I was in my teen years, especially older
Mm-hmm.
teen years and early college, I was a depressed kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
I battled those types of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
not nothing suicidal, but I battled,
I still battle
depression.
daily.
And I know you do, and I still sometimes do as well. But this this album made me feel good, and that song made me feel good. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing about it was, at that time, I was listening to a lot of music, I always have, but I didn't really take deep dives.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really I didn't realize how much thought went into the lyrics because it's this sugary synth pop. There's like no real drums on it. It's all
Hmm.
manufactured stuff, and there's really hardly any real instruments. There's a cello on one song, and but it's very industrial at times, and a lot of sequencers and stuff. So I didn't realize just how serious some of the lyrics are. But what happens when you listen to this start to finish and you read through the lyrics, you're like, he's he's really positive person. Even some
Hmm.
of the darker songs still have hope and optimism and stuff.
Yeah. I
So
think he would credit his Buddhism, his practice of Buddhism on that,
mhm.
which I've always really respected. I'm not a Buddhist, but it's always made me tempted to look into it or something like that. I wish I could find that state of peace, especially these days when I feel like I'm daily full of rage. Um, anyway, yeah, he is just an optimistic force for good and always has been actively. It seems to come naturally. Even when the rest of the world seems to be going in a completely other direction, including me, he manages to see the light. I don't know how he does it.
Mhm. Now I've had it on cassette and CD. Obviously, I haven't
Mm-hmm.
had it on vinyl, but the plan is to purchase it on vinyl. The
Mm-hmm.
best the my vinyl collection. I've vowed. Sometimes it seems like an empty vow, but I have vowed to only select the best of the best
Mm-hmm.
for my vinyl collection. So this would be one of them.
Yeah.
Have you owned it on vinyl or just CD or
No, it's funny. It's I was thinking about this to get ready to talk to you. I dubbed it off of a friend. So I had it on one side of a 90-minute blank tape.
Mhm.
And I remember specifically because it didn't all fit on the 45 minutes. So the last song, whichever it was, which it was not the song that is currently the last song,
Mhm.
that was not on this version. Um, we'll talk about that more in a minute, I'm sure. Anyway, that song got cut off. So that's what I held on to until college, probably like in the early 90s. And
Mhm.
then eventually, yes, I got the CD. I collected vinyl when I was young. I was never big into vinyl. I just felt like it's just so inconvenient, you know.
Mhm.
I do get tempted once in a while now to start a collection, but I would just put my family in the poorhouse if I started doing that. So I don't. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's when it started really. I held on. I had my dubbed tape for most of my upbringing until college.
Are you surprised Howard didn't make it bigger here? Like that he wasn't a bigger star in the US?
I am surprised. Yeah, I mean, he may have had, considering the evolution of his career and of his sound, he may have had just the exact right amount of success. There's two or three chart hits off the first album. There's three maybe chart hits off this album. The next album underperforms. The one after that has two hits, medium sized, reasonable hits. The one
Mhm.
after that is this kind of big, bloated, big music, lots of session musicians album. It's got one mild hit on it. And so it seemed like once he wanted to expand who he was and how he wanted to present himself to everybody, the his knack for writing really great little pop songs like Things Can Only Get Better started to leave him a little bit, you know.
Mhm.
Um, if anything, it's probably a miracle that he can continue on like he does and play to big crowds for 40 years, like you're
Mhm.
saying, you know.
Yeah. By the way, opening act Haircut 100 is great also. They're
They've been on my
really
show twice too, and I love them as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
You lived in England for a while. Was Howard more prevalent there?
I think he's bigger than states, to be
Really?
honest. Yeah. And my view of that might be skewed having grown up in Utah where he's been huge.
Mhm.
But yeah, and so I moved to England right around the time of Cross That Line, which was his fourth album.
Mhm.
And then I went on my Mormon mission, and you don't listen to secular music for those 2 years. And that's when In the Running came out. And so he was kind of off my radar by that point anyway because of where I was in my life, and he never quite came back.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice. I think he is bigger in the States than he is over there.
Um, one of the obviously the opening track, Things Can Only Get Better, big hit here, and it was a top 10 hit in the US, top 10 hit in the UK. Very danceable, very sing-songy. He wrote this thing while he was on tour, and he is, you've seen him, so you know he interacts with the crowd, loves crowd interaction, loves having the crowd
Mm-hmm.
sing back to him. And so it seemed just natural for him to put in the whoa, whoa, whoa call and response part. But he gets Aphrodisiac, this vocal group Aphrodisiac, to
Mm-hmm.
sing this with him on the album. And I think the stroke of genius here was he didn't go all synth on this. He got the TKO horns in here, and that really brings this brash, bright
Yes.
little oomph to this song.
Mm-hmm. It's I love the way you describe that right now, Mike, because again, today, instead of listening again to Dream into Action, I listened to the new deluxe edition that just recently came out that's on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that's on there are early versions of these songs. And most of them are there. They're like 75% of the way there from the song you know. The most clear thing about the early version of that song is that it's missing the bigness. It's missing the boldness, those big horns and the it sounds like something like Bob Clearmountain might have done or something, just some pregnant pauses, some drama, an element of drama, It sounds
Mm-hmm.
like a demo otherwise. It's still a strong demo. It's almost there. But that's another one. I can't my parents wouldn't let us have it MTV because they thought it was evil, but we could watch it Friday night videos. So eventually we got MTV in like 1987 or something like that. But so when this came out again, I'm glued to Friday night videos, and I remember seeing the video, and at that point, he's my guy. I feel invested in him.
Mm-hmm.
I love that that he's getting famous, and even though he's got goofy hair, but so I'm emotionally invested in Howard at this point, and I'm so glad that he's got a big hit.
Yeah. Love the falsetto in the chorus. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel just great song. Great way to start I mean, you listen to all the songs. No other song could have kicked this album off.
No, no, that's the one.
They made the right choice in the sequencing. Um, we move on to Life in One Day, the second song, and it was a later addition to the album. And the ironic thing here is this is a song that the record label said they didn't hear enough hits. They needed more hits. So Jones wrote this over a weekend. And the whole message of the song is don't go speeding your time away. He's writing this song about not rushing while he's rushing to write this song.
Only him. I mean, this is like the most Howard Jones song there could be. If his songs so often, they're not preachy, but they are offering advice. They're
Mm-hmm.
offering sage, wise advice
Mm-hmm.
about living your life in a better, more elevated way, more conscientious way. And this is him. This couldn't be more him. Don't try to live your life in one day. Don't go speed your time away. Don't what is it? The can't lose. Only so much you can do. His
Yeah.
songs are all like a pep talk.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
don't feel down, little boy. Come on, you can do it. That's kind of how his all of
Yeah.
his music is. It's the most Howard song ever.
It reminds me of like the way he talks about, don't take everything so seriously. Don't try to,
Yeah.
grind through, your
Mm-hmm.
life and do the work and everything. It reminds me of the Richard Carlson book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small
Mm-hmm.
stuff, with
Mm-hmm.
where he says everyone dies with stuff still on their to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard was careful in his concert. He carefully said, this, when I say the old man in the lyrics, it's not my old man. It's like not my dad. My dad didn't say this to me. Nobody said this to me.
Uh-huh.
But The old man said to me, he said, "Don't always take life so seriously. Play the flute and
Yeah,
dance and sing your song, and
yeah.
try and enjoy the here and now. The future will take care of itself somehow."
There you go.
Great advice. Enjoy the time you have here because you don't know how much of it you have.
Hmm. So true.
It was a hit. It was
It
a
was.
top 20 in the US and top 15 in the UK. So,
Yeah.
and an addictive song. It's got a Latin rhythm. He said on his in his commentary for the album with the commentary version, he said he doesn't know, he loves Latin rhythms, he loves South American rhythms. He doesn't know where they come from in his music. He doesn't have like a background in it. They just somehow appear in some of his songs.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So,
classic.
yeah. Um, on the US version that I had, the cassette, the third song is "No One Is to Blame."
Mm,
Uh, on the UK version, "Dream into Action," the title track is the third song. So "No One Is to Blame" is the one that I heard third, and of course, it was the original stripped down um, version that from the original release. And I know that a
mhm,
lot of people know the Phil Collins produced remix, and some people probably prefer it. It's more radio friendly, it's got more going
mhm.
on, it's maybe more interesting musically, but God, I love the original more.
Do you really? Okay, so that I've been like chomping at the bit to ask this question because purists seem to agree with you, and maybe that's because they feel like the number one version got is overplayed or they've heard it enough times, and so there's still some mystery or magic to be found in the original version.
Mm-hmm.
The original version to me sounds really kind of undercooked, and it's a fine song. It wouldn't knock me out. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it would get any traction on the radio if he had released the
No,
original version. The
no.
Phil Collins version is just perfectly made for the radio, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
me, a huge Genesis Phil Collins fan.
Yes.
I love
When I think
Phil.
of you, I think of Frog.
And I love Phil, but I like that version. I do,
Yeah.
but I there's something about the original with I just feel that it has more gravitas and maybe seems a little sadder with the stripped down version.
That you're probably right. And I would think he would agree with you, to be honest. Yeah.
But I love the song, both versions. But
Mhm.
the one you buy now on the CD, you get the Phil Collins one,
Mhm.
and that's fine too.
That's fine too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both available.
If you see him live, he plays the old original version or closer to that
Yeah,
than the Phil Collins one.
yeah. I love I just love everything about it, and it
Mm-hmm.
just it's funny that the story goes that he was told by I think it was a DJ in California, to telling about the California girls that we have out here, and he's like, well, that's great, but I've got Jan, I'm not in the
Mm-hmm.
market, and it's like, oh well, you can look at the menu, but you can't eat. And he, even though the song he wrote was nothing like that concept, that stuck in his mind, and he used
Really,
that.
that's the impetus for this song. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it ended up being about this thing about humanity and the things that we go through in life, and like you can see the summit but you can't reach it, and
Yeah,
there's all these the things that we go through. But I thought that was an interesting story.
yeah,
I recommend, if people have the streaming services and they have the commentary version, to go listen to the commentary. Each commentary is only about a minute to a minute and a half long, and
yeah.
they're very interesting.
Totally agree. Yep.
So that brings us to four. Track four is the title track on the US version, and it's flipped, and it's "No One Is to Blame" on the UK version. And the title track it's very industrial sounding, but it's all keyboards and electronics, and um, it's kind of about that, just humanity through the years. There's always conflict.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it ends up in a fight, ends up in a war. But again, Howard being Howard and being positive, that if we want to change, we have that power. We can make that happen. We just have to turn the dream into action, literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this one?
Uh, okay, so here's where my love for the album starts to, yeah, but this is the yeah, but to me, his masterwork is the debut, Humans Live. And the reason I feel that way is because I feel like Every song on that album has its own identity. Every song on that album is memorable in its own way. This album, aside from the singles, to me, the filler tracks are more forgettable. They lack a hook, or they lack a a chorus or a melody or something that you can really sink your teeth into. And this is the first example of that. It almost reminds me a little bit of R&B production, like maybe even Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis might have done back in the day. Those
Interesting.
sort of like hard clanking noises,
Hmm.
that they made really beautiful. But this feels like almost a prototypical version of that a little bit. It's not bad or anything, but it's not as memorable to me. It's
Hmm.
slightly discordant, and this
It
is
is.
you're going to hear me say this a few times with a few more songs on this album. That doesn't mean I don't love it. It's a 4 out of 5 stars for me.
Hmm.
It's just that there are, to me, is more filler on this than the debut.
It's fair. It's fair. And
Yeah.
I think that the the criticism I have of this title track is that it doesn't really have a hook. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
catchy hook where you're used to that from Howard. You used to having, at least in the chorus, you used to having a catchy hook. It doesn't have that,
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of proto proto industrial in a way. It's
That's that
experimental.
too. You're right.
So an
I feel like
interesting
everything we
development.
just said is going to be applied to like two more songs
Yeah,
on
probably
this
will be.
album because there's more like this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So after Dream into Action on the US version, we get like to get to know you well, which was not on the original UK version. That was a single that he put out separately with Bounce Right Back as the B-side. And like to get to know you well is a song that I'm really glad they put on the US version.
Mm-hmm.
The song Look Mama appears fifth on the, and I love that song as well, and it is
Mm-hmm.
on this version, but it's not in that spot. I like where they put it on the US version. But getting back to like to get to know you well, this is one that's almost a bit of reggae. There's even like some keyboard simulating steel drums kind of thing going on there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Howard was inspired by the Olympics and the idea that people from all these disparate political societies and types of countries that have nothing in common can get together and express themselves through the joy of sports competition. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of us to just talk to each other to get to know each other and
Mm-hmm.
to realize that the differences are few and the similarities between us as humans are many.
Yeah. Yeah. I should like this song more than I do. I don't mind it. This was the song that was not on the version that I dubbed off my friend.
Okay.
So the whatever version I he had that I dubbed off him did not include this song. I remember it being played on the radio sometimes. I remember hearing it in Better Off Dead,
Yeah.
the movie Better Off Dead,
Yeah.
which probably Rupert Hine probably had something to do with that because Rupert Hine did the soundtrack for Better Off Dead. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I think he probably told me this when I had him on like 6 years ago. But um, and it felt a little bit out of step because it was the only song on that soundtrack that I recognized. Everything else was done specifically for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I was glad that he had another hit. I'm glad that he still plays it now. It's never been my favorite. Something about the we can be one together feels a little lyrically too simple to me or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I don't mind it. It's like a
Yeah.
6 out of 10 for me.
It's interesting you brought that up because I was going to talk about the fact that the repetitiveness of the chorus, like to get to know you well, like to get to know you well, like to get to know you well. The all of the notes from those sentences, those repeated sentences, they're
Mm-hmm.
all the same except when he gets to well. He just
Mm-hmm.
hits well at a different note.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing is that it somehow works
It
to
does.
make you think, it doesn't make you think, oh God, this is repetitive
Mm.
because of the way he delivers it.
Each well goes up an octave or
Yeah.
however you say it,
Yeah.
So it's building some tension
Mm-hmm.
as he's singing it. And then we can be one, and then it sort of like dissolves and down the falls down the stairs. We can't be one, we can't be one together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, it's an exercise in dynamics of things getting really tense and high and then dropping down low.
Do you remember hearing because I didn't check it out. Do you remember hearing like one of the earlier versions of that on your on the demos?
Yes, there's a version that he does in this new collector's edition or whatever that I listened to today. It's called the like early version that Howard did in his front room or something like that. And it's just him and a keyboard. He's in the front room of his house, I assume, figuring it out as he goes. It sounds that it's actually more polished than you might imagine. With a label like Howard did this in his front room,
Hmm.
would make you think that it's like, you know, barely audible or whatever. But the song is there. It's
Yeah.
just that it's yeah, he just recorded it there in his living room or whatever. It's interesting.
Yeah. So we go from that song, Like to Get to Know You Well. The final song on side one on the US version is Assault and Battery. And it's also the same song on side one of the UK version. So they both end with the same song. So even though you get some differences in there, there are a few songs that are slotted in the exact same spot on both records. And I have to admit that when I was younger, I was not paying that much attention to the lyrics in this song specifically. It didn't grab me right away. It wasn't like one of my favorites early on. But as I get older, and I'm not a vegetarian, I did not know this
Mm-hmm.
was about, the way
Right.
animals are treated and how, how your food gets on your plate
Mm-hmm.
and the torture that they go through and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A very heavy topic for a
Very.
pop song.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I am exactly like you. I'm also not a vegetarian. I did not think about the lyrics when I was 11 years old or whatever, when this came out, 12 years old. But this is my favorite Howard Jones song. And it is because that piano riff, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
and then what comes after that is just a fantastic genius riff. It goes throughout the song and I want it to keep going for another hour because
Mm.
I just love that he stumbled on this incredible riff. I don't care what the subject matter is. It's a little weird to me that my favorite song is this like "Don't Hurt Animals," thing, and
Yeah.
and it should be making me feel really guilty, but I just don't pay. I don't. Not that I'm not anti-vegetarian or whatever. Not. I'm not there. But that's my favorite song of Howard Jones.
Interesting. But it's almost like classical piano, like classical
Yeah.
music. And then you get all that other stuff and that low
Hmm.
low synth dun, 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 that.
Yes. And the kids, little something with their barnyard.
Yeah, yeah,
Anyway, and that's supposed to just layer on the the guilt even more. Here, we're
yeah,
going to bring in a little chorus of children
yeah,
to sing from the perspective of the animals and how they feel about you eating them. And then you're just going to be like, oh, that cute little cherubic chorus while I have my steak and I feel really guilty about it.
right. And it's almost like this little nursery rhyme
Yes.
tune in the middle eight, and then he reprises it just on the keyboard on the piano at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very dramatic the way that the song comes to a close with that.
Yeah. And when he does the battery and the falsetto,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. I don't care what it's about. I love that song.
Yeah, at first I was having trouble understanding the words, probably because a lot of times I listened to it in the car, and I did not have good cars when I was that age. My
Sure.
cars were loud, and you had to, my stereo wasn't great, but and it was on a cassette, so it wasn't the highest
Mm-hmm.
fidelity, but it was. I just always assumed Assault and Battery. It's about somebody getting killed. Maybe it's a true
Mm-hmm.
story. I don't know what it's about. I don't care. I like it. It sounds good.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
I don't believe that my cassette version had the lyric inset. There's a lot of cassettes
Oh,
did not
yeah,
at
good
that
point.
time.
Mm,
Um, and it's even possible I don't have it anymore. I got rid of my cassette collection years ago. It's even possible that that was a Columbia House cassette.
his Humans Lib was I got that on cassette, and that was a Columbia House cassette. One thing that we should talk about that I was going to bring up at some point is that he's the worst enunciator in history.
Yeah.
I cannot understand what he's saying half the time, and but it sounds dramatic. It sounds like he means it. I can pick out enough words to get the gist of what the song's about. And but his voice is just he strings words together and I don't even quite understand what he's talking about. They just
Yeah.
sound like yelps or whatever, but they work, you
And
know?
sometimes he hits he emphasizes a note that you don't expect, or a
Yes.
syllable. Yeah.
Yeah. A syllable, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. He's a
Uh,
trip.
I did, it wasn't until I had um, a lyric sheet in front of me that I understood he was saying the word nonchalance in one of the songs. I was like, oh, that's what he's saying. Okay.
Yeah, there's still, I mean, there's songs I've heard a billion times that I've probably been singing wrong, or I'm not even
Mhm.
sure what they, it took me forever to realize that he said, bend your brain. Oh, that's, don't crack up, bend your brain, throw off your mental chains. I didn't know that's what he said. That forever, what is this? Sounds interesting. It's a cool
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we grew up with. They had magazines that they put out that had song lyrics in them, and you would go to the
Yeah.
store and buy them if you, oh, I need to buy this because I need to know the lyrics to this song, because you
Star
would always
hits,
get
man.
them. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
In the UK, they had smash hits, and the American version was star hits.
Yeah.
I would buy those at 7-Eleven sometimes for
Yeah.
this exact
Same.
reason. Yep.
So
I
we,
remember I bought one of the first ones I ever bought had Let's Go Crazy by Prince.
mhm.
And hearing that the lyric was uh, before they put the purple banana in the truck or whatever. And I was like, that's what he's been, what is a purple banana? What is he even talking about? What is this? When you realize what that whole preamble, the dearly beloved thing is.
Mhm.
And I had no idea, but I learned it in a Star Hits magazine. Weird.
That was our education.
That was it.
You flip over the cassette to side two, unless you had one of the fancy boom boxes with auto reverse.
Mm,
You in the UK you would get Automaton to start off side two. In the US we got Look Mama, and I thought Look Mama was a good side two opening track because I felt
definitely.
like it was poppy and it really kind of set a better stage for side two than Automaton did.
Totally agree. The side two of this album gets a little dreary for me after a while. So it's nice if you have the version with Look Mama, which kicks off on it with a song that makes perfect sense on the radio, sounds like a single, sounds like a hit. It kind of sets the stage in a better way than Automaton does. I think I was trying to think, he still plays Look Mama, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
In
that's
fact,
what I
he
thought.
he talked about it at the show and how it wasn't about his mother, but he she heard the song before he had a chance to tell her about it,
uh,
and then he felt bad because she obviously thought it was about her, but
right.
it wasn't. It was just he would get letters from teenagers who were struggling and trying to make their way in the world, and he wanted to let them know that he kind of got where they were coming from, kind of thing. And Look Mama, I have to live my own life. This song spoke to me because I had moved out of my parents' house in time for the 85 86 college school year.
Wow.
So I had just moved out of and my mom wasn't controlling or anything. She was
Hmm.
a perfectly lovely person, but she wanted to make sure I was okay. So she would call several times a week. And when you're at that age, you're like, oh, Mom, there weren't
Hmm.
cell phones. So the phone rings, it's your mother.
Yeah.
You can't just look at it and see that it's your mom and
Uh-huh.
ignore it or whatever, or let it go to voicemail. There wasn't any of that back then. So I
Hmm.
could get where that was coming from. Let me live my life. Let me make my own mistakes. And
Hmm.
John, I love the middle eight of this. I got to make my
Mm.
own mistakes.
Yes. Yes. That it didn't have a personal connection in that way like you did, but I would imagine if I did, it would be even more impactful. It's a really fantastic song that I'm glad he still pulls out. I think it was top 40. I don't
Yeah.
remember what the number is, but I'm pretty sure it was in there somewhere.
Yeah. I can find that. It's great podcasting, looking stuff up on the fly.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's the thing I love about it is it's the falsetto that he uses.
Hmm.
It was a single in the UK where it reached number 10.
Mm.
It was only released in the UK as a single.
Oh, not released here. I feel
No,
like I heard it on the radio. Maybe that was alternative radio.
could be, or some stations picked up on stuff that wasn't, weren't necessarily hits. That was the great thing about FM radio back then, is that
Yeah,
sometimes if you got the right DJ, they would just play whatever they wanted to play.
yeah.
They didn't have all these preset playlists.
And as I said, Utah, all bets are off for him in Utah. We just did what we wanted to do as it pertained to Howard.
That's pretty good. So yeah, it was a good way to kick off side two. And then in the US, we got Bounce Right Back, which was not on the original UK track list because it was the B side for Like to Get to Know You Well. And this song it's a little bit of rapping Howard. It's very hip hop
Very.
influenced, and it's a bit of a strange song, but it's got a catchy little message in it, a catchy little riff
Mm-hmm.
to it. But basically, it just comes down to, it's about, watch what you say, because some of that stuff will come back at you and haunt you.
Mm-hmm.
And he created this sort of character that would show up in various parts of the
Mm-hmm.
story, and it was it
Mm-hmm.
was very interesting.
It's funny because you're right. You listen to it now and it sounds like Grandmaster Flash or like Africa Bombata or something like that. It is white rap basically.
Yeah.
I remember at the time thinking it was very odd and a little too odd for what the box that I had Howard in
Mm-hmm.
my 12-year-old fandom. But I will say, I think it's aged. Maybe that's the wrong word. I think it holds up better than some of the other songs on this second side. Just in
Yeah.
terms of it, it's more of an earworm. You're going to remember it. It sticks in your head. Some of these songs struggle with that in
Yeah.
the latter half.
It's interesting about this album because you play it and it sounds very much of its time. It's a very 80s sounding album,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there's something about it that still transcends the 80s-ness of the production and is still sort of valid
Yeah,
today, I think.
I agree. I agree.
And it
Well,
may just be
luckily
the
that
quality of the songs, maybe.
I think that's part of. I think that's a big part of it is that these songs are strong enough and undeniable enough that they haven't lost anything. They're great pop songs, most of them, and we're lucky that um, synth pop, new wave, whatever you want to call it, has kind of come back around. There's enough, like the show you went to that I'm going to see too. I mean, he attracts big crowds and he'll tour, in this case with Haircut 100, but I've seen him with Midjur. I've seen him, his bass player is Nick Beggs from Kajagoogoo. And I've seen him with other 80s, Tom Bailey, from Thompson Twins.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have, there's enough of a large nostalgia wave to sustain these guys where their music doesn't feel, it's not like yacht rock where we're all sort of listening and enjoying it and celebrating it, but slightly ironically. This
Mm-hmm.
feels more legitimate. This feels more like timeless.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you say that, because in the upcoming couple of months, a Flock of Seagulls will be playing here,
Mm,
and then Thomas Dolby will be playing here.
there you go.
So
Yeah,
contemporaries of Howard's Day
yeah.
in the Sun as well.
I'm
So the
interviewing Thomas Dolby in 3 weeks.
nice, very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
The UK version in this slot got Is There a Difference, which is later in the album on the US version. And then in the number 9 slot on both the UK and US versions is my favorite Howard Jones song, which was probably going to surprise you. His Elegy is my favorite song. I don't know why. I just feel like it is a haunting song with a ton of gravitas. I love the way he talks about take me back to the womb in the first verse and then take us forward through the tomb in the last verse. I love the balance there. And I know it's not everybody's favorite song. It's a very much an energy buzzkill in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
side 2, but maybe it's because I was a depressed kid. I think this song got me through a lot of those times. And the message in it is the
Wow.
message is, we must live to fight the negative, not to court
Uh-huh.
the self and defeat. I mean, I
Yeah.
think there was something there that I was grabbing onto.
This is shocking, and I feel really sad to tell you that I don't really like this song.
I knew I knew you weren't going to like it from what you said
Um,
earlier.
well, the thing is, again, I hate to compare it to the debut, but Humans Lib had Don't Always Look in the Rain, Look at the Rain, and Hide and Seek, these beautiful um, uh, ballads that are done in a similar style to Elegy, you know. But as I was saying earlier, to me, all the songs on Humans Lib stand on their own as individual solid songs.
Mm-hmm.
This to me feels like how we're trying to reproduce or recreate the magic. Now he does. There's lots of ballads. Howard does lots of. No One Is to Blame is a ballad. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's not a stranger to ballads. It's just that this one feels like a big wet noodle compared to the other two, and it just doesn't move me. It's not bad
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think anything he does is, but well, he has like one or two bad albums, but um, it just lacks any of the power, emotional power for me that his other ballads, specifically the two from the first album, have.
When you said you liked the Phil Collins version of No One Is to Blame better, that's when I knew you weren't going to like Elegy.
We were.
That's when I knew. But and maybe this is the eventual prog fan in me,
Mm,
but the cello sells the crap out of the song for
true, true. And the chorus is really powerful and soaring.
me.
Um, one of the I've seen him more than anybody live. I think I'm around 12, give or take one or two, something like that. And one of the shows that I saw was him doing both of the first two albums in their entirety. And I actually, again, going back to Utah versus where I live in Denver, he played uh, he played an outdoor amphitheater in Utah, and then he played a little club here in Denver. Same exact tour, same set list, everything,
Mm-hmm.
but the crowd was bigger. But these songs recreated in that moment were just gorgeous. It is a great song. It just doesn't hit those peaks that his other ones did. It's beautiful though.
Yeah. So number 10 is both sides have 6 songs on them, short songs. Um, the UK got Specialty, and the US got Is There a Difference? So that was earlier in the album on the UK version. We got it at 10. And Specialty is a song that I heard back in the day, but it was because a friend of mine had a Howard Jones, either a 12-inch single or an EP that had it on
Mm,
there.
mm,
And that's the only reason I had heard it. And I was like, oh, wow, this should have been on the album. This is a good song.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
turns out it was on the album, just not on the US
Hmm.
version.
Yeah.
So, I grew up with Is There a Difference, which is a pretty standard pop song. I think it's fine. I like it. It's catchy. I never would skip it, but I think it doesn't have that same special quality that Things Can Only Get Better or Life in One Day have.
No.
It's more. I don't want to call it filler, but compared to those songs, it's filler.
Is there a difference? It's kind of jaunty. It reminds you of like a guy kind of bouncing down the sidewalk, walking like he's singing to himself as he goes to work or something like that. It it's kind of a peppy little sweet little tune, sweet little ditty for Howard. Specialty though, that's a weird one. If Dream into Action sounded discordant with the clanging and the
Mm-hmm.
prototypical, R&B or whatever, this is like that, an automaton or whatever. These two songs kind of give me a headache a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, I a headache for music by Howard Jones, which I love. I don't hate these songs, but
Yeah.
they really bring very little to the table, if you ask me.
Yeah. The weird thing about Specialty is that the chorus and the verses sound like they come from completely different songs.
Absolutely.
Specialty is one of the most beautiful choruses he's ever written.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you're right. It's couched in this very industrial, fast moving,
Yeah.
it's not even melodic.
No.
It's just really rhythmic and and yeah, like I said, it's just industrial and rhythmic, but there's no real melody to the verses. But you get to that chorus and it's just so lush and beautiful, and the message in it of just be you. There's only one of
Mm-hmm.
you. You're unique. Don't try to be somebody else. It's just so Howard.
It's so Howard. You know what it reminds me of? You know when you see like in a movie or even like a music video, and they show images of traffic sped up, and usually at nighttime. So
Hmm.
you see like the headlights are almost like lasers,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
everything's moving at like a stoplight or something, and cars are coming and going. The verses, that's what that sounds like, and then the chorus feels like that only in slow mo. So it goes from like two or three times speed for the traffic for the chorus for the verse, and then slowing it all the way back down for the chorus. It's a weird one. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. It's more of an oddity than it is like an enjoyable song, you know?
Yeah. You're just kind of waiting for the next time the chorus pops in so you can sing along
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Very interesting song. And then for track 11, again, this song was not on my version. And I
Mm,
didn't, I, this is a song I did not hear on that EP. So I didn't hear it until I got the CD years later.
same.
So I didn't know why look for the key, but it's a fantastic song. We got in the 11 hole, we got Automaton, and that one was based on a dream that Howard had of that he just like found this being, and it was like there was no one home. It was just a body, and he just kind of imagined the rest of it from there. But he said in his commentary that he thinks it might have come from the tabloids and the British press were talking about how electronic music wasn't rock and roll because the machines were doing all the work. It had no humanity in it,
Mm,
and how that bothered him because he said at some point there had never been a piano before. Did they say the same thing when the piano was invented? And oh, this
mm-hmm,
thing thinks it's an orchestra, it's just a machine.
mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where that story came from. It's a bit of a bizarre tale, but uh,
Well, it's interesting to me that that's the impetus for a song that does sound like it was made by robots instead of a real person. You know what I mean? If
yeah,
he's trying to prove the point that music is warmer and more humane than that, he failed because that song does sound like it was made by computers and machines. You know?
yeah, yeah. Only machines back then, computers back then had the floppy disk you had to put in the
True,
slot.
true. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Song 12 on the UK version was Hunger for the Flesh. And on side two of the US version, Hunger for the Flesh. And this is a really sort of a serious song about like holding on so tight and you're not able to move on to the
Hmm.
afterlife or to, to get back to his Buddhist teachings. You don't get to be reborn and move on kind of thing. But um, it's tonally different from everything on the album.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like it kind of points the way a little bit of what's going to come in like two or three albums from now when things get a little more progressive's probably the wrong word because it's not progressive rock, but it's progressing in sound from what we know of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hunger for the Flesh is kind of a weird one. It sticks out because it's another sort of it probably be categorized in the ballad area like Elegy
Mm-hmm.
was, but it's not like a soft, sweet love song. It's something else. There's this air of tension or you know unrest going
Yeah.
on in there.
There's a darkness to this song, but it
Mm-hmm.
still has this, I think, still has a very beautiful melody to it,
Yeah.
especially the verses. The verses are very delicate. And then it
Mm-hmm.
gets to the hunger for the flesh. That part's a little bit more, not really gruff because Howard doesn't do gruff, but
Right.
a little bit more, like you said, tension involved in it. But Assault. Why look for the key? That is, I mean, that I think had the capability of maybe being a U.S. single.
Of all the songs on the back end of this album that I kind of that sort of blur together for me a little bit, this one does stick out the best. It sounds like, especially at the beginning out of the gate, the synth lines and stuff remind you a little bit of things can only get better. And there's like a verse chorus there that you can kind of sink your teeth into a little bit better. It's not as strong. I don't know that it would have, been a huge hit, but it probably would have made more sense on the radio than some of these other songs would have.
Yeah, maybe a third or fourth single in the US.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah, that's
expecting it
right.
to maybe not expecting it to go above 30, but
Exactly.
you never know. It depends on
Yep.
what else it's up against. And let me say,
Exactly.
1985 was a pretty darn great year for music.
It really was.
I mean, and for this to stand out as one of probably my top 4 or 5 albums from 1985 is saying something, because uh, just going back to my 1985, um, you know,
You have like a spreadsheet or something?
no, I have playlists of every year in the 80s,
Gosh.
and
Wow.
on both Spotify and Tidal. And so you've got Aha's Hunting High and Low.
Hmm.
You've got Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. You've got Sting's Dream of the Blue Turtles. Um, you've got God. I know there was
Wasn't
another. There's
Thompson
another good.
Twins
Oh,
into the Gap like right
uh,
around that area?
mm, I don't
Maybe that
think
was
it was
84.
85,
Okay.
but I think Phil Collins, No Jacket that year.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, No
Mike,
Jacket
I
was
was
that
12.
year.
This is like the peak. John's aware of everything. Wasn't Songs from the Big Chair 85, or was that
Yes,
maybe
yes, it was. It
that's
was.
probably one of my favorite albums ever. This is like John's awakening to pop music. Everything you're saying right now is like that was my daily life. I
Oh,
drank it all day, every day.
Play Deep by the Outfield came out that
Mm.
year. The Power Station first album came
Oh,
out that year.
Power Station. Love them.
Till Tuesday, Voices Carry. I mean,
Uh-huh.
1985 was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
So for
Yeah.
this to stand out as one of my top albums of 85, and even really of the 80s,
Hmm.
it says a lot. I don't know, it depends on the day. Do I like it better than Humans Live? It really depends on the day.
Mm.
And probably that's biased because it was the first one I owned. If
Yeah, that usually goes. That's
so,
how it goes.
you imprint on those because you play them the
Hmm.
most.
Yeah.
Um, but I recognize how good Humans Live is. I really sort of also have a special place in my heart for Cross That Line.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Okay.
um so there you go. Howard Jones and Don't Try to Live Your
Did
Life
we
in
hit
One Day.
everything?
I
We
think we
hit
hit
everything
everything.
already, huh?
Yeah,
Wow. That's interesting.
in
Yeah.
less than an
Did
hour.
you, what did you think of One to One, the album after this?
Not huge fan, but I
Yeah.
didn't it's a musical blind spot for me that I will have to go back and revisit, because if you would go back and look at my 85 list, I was starting to get into this thing called hair metal right around then.
Oh, well, that'll change some things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next
Okay.
several years, I was looking for guitars
Hmm.
and spiky hair and,
Hmm.
videos
Hmm.
with girls in it and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Um, I remember getting that tape. In fact, this is going to be funny. So it's 1985 or no, what year did that come out? 87, I think. It's 1987. It's my 14th birthday, and my mom is going to take me to go. I think I'm getting a new bike or something for my birthday,
Hmm.
and she says this will give you a insight into the times it was. She was like, John, I know it's your birthday, and I know we promised you things, but we're trying to save up for a microwave. We want to buy a microwave. And so instead of buying you a new bike, let's go to the record store and you can pick out 4 tapes. I'll buy you 4 tapes. And I picked out this One to One. I picked out Whitney Houston's Whitney album. I picked out, I think it was the Billy Joel's Greatest Hits 1 and 2.
Okay.
And I picked out Boingo Boingo Boingo. And I listened to them like crazy. And I remember being kind of disappointed by the Howard Jones tape because the first single off of it was You Know I Love You, Don't You, which was a great song, great video, not as big a hit as it should have been. To me, it was a perfect Trojan horse. Let's really sell this album. Everyone's going to go, we're going to sell 1 million copies. Now, granted, most of the people who buy those copies are going to be disappointed with everything else they hear on the album, but that's okay. Let's get them in the door, you know? And it just it didn't work for me
Mm-hmm.
very well.
Yeah.
I don't mind it now, but again, it's, you know, not
That I
nothing
remember
new.
liking that song, but I don't think I didn't dive any deeper. I saw the video, I heard it on the
Mm-hmm.
radio, but I didn't go any deeper on that at that time because, like I said, I was I was in college. I was getting into metal. All my friends were into metal. So that's
Mm.
basically what we listened to almost all the
Yeah.
time. And of course, I was also starting to get into things like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd
Mm.
and some of
Hmm.
the stuff that I didn't care about when I was a kid. Like that's
Hmm.
older people's music. I didn't care.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've stayed loyal. At least in seeing him in concerts. I may not buy every one of his albums, but I still love the guy a lot, and he feels like part of the family, which is a weird thing for Utahns to say about Howard Jones, but he just does. It's the way
yeah.
it works. Yeah.
So Howard is on tour now with supporting this 40th anniversary of this album, and one of the interesting things is he's touring with the original backdrop from the original Dream into Action tour. I don't know if you know the story about this, but it was
He
at
posted a video or something about it on Facebook, but I don't remember. Tell me the story.
he was a he was he was contacted by someone who saw a recording studio in California throwing away a bunch of stuff. And you see a recording studio throwing away a bunch of stuff, you think, well, maybe there's something good in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the person found that banner and somehow kept working at contacting his people and finally got somebody and said, hey, we have this, and sent a picture and said, do you want this? And he was like, yeah, I want
Yeah.
that back. So
Yeah.
it's just some random fluke chance that he gets to tour with the original backdrop. It's got it looks a little worse for wear, but in the dark you
Mm-hmm.
can't really tell, and they shine lights on it and stuff. But I thought that was what a great
Yeah.
story, and what a like just a lucky happenstance that somebody just happened to be walking by, seeing them throwing boxes and stuff out, and thinking, I wonder if there's anything cool in there. And
Yeah.
there it was.
Absolutely. How many times have you seen him?
I've only seen him this one time.
This was the
My
first.
first
Oh
time.
wow.
Yeah,
My first
I
time was on this tour, was on the Dream into Action tour. And so I probably saw that backdrop back in the day. Although it was an outdoor concert, I assume maybe he still used it. I don't know. Um, yeah, he's a blast. Now, did he play this whole album for the 40th anniversary or most of
he
it or
didn't
what?
he did play, I want to say 6 songs from it. Didn't play the whole thing. Played about 2 hours, and of course he played several songs from Humans Lib and some of his other hits. I think there was only one song that I didn't recognize from one of
Mm,
his newer albums.
yeah,
So he
yeah,
does concentrate on the hits on this tour.
great, great. He's great, and it's so satisfying. And I've seen him in several different. I've seen him just him and a piano. I've seen him with his full band. I've seen, and one of my favorite times was he played this little club here called the Soiled Dove, and it's like a dinner theater kind of thing. There's a stage, and then people sort of sit around it.
Mhm.
And I was right up close, and it's just him and a keyboard. And between each song, he tells you the full story of where it all came from. And like you're saying, he's such a great, endearing raconteur, and the stories are fun, and he's so engaging, and
Very
he
charming
was the
guy.
best. He's a very charming guy.
Yeah.
Very, yes.
Um, Funny, uh, good, great sense of humor. I mean, it's like watching Colin Hay. If you go to a Colin Hay show,
Yeah,
you're going to get the same thing.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
it.
All right. Well, any last thoughts on Dream in Action, John?
I don't think so. It's like an 7.5/8 out of 10 album for me. But it made a huge impact on my life. It formed it solidified my interest and love affair with Howard, which would last the rest of
Yeah, I probably one of the bigger albums for me of the 80s, like I said, but came along at a time when right around that time I started to get into other types of music, and I just lost track of them because when I stopped
Mm-hmm.
watching so much MTV, I wasn't really aware, and I started listening to different radio stations. I wasn't exposed to it. I maybe like had just a passing knowledge that he must have a new album out because I heard this new
Mm-hmm.
song, but
Mm-hmm.
it didn't occur to me, and I didn't have a lot of extra money back then, and I was
Sure.
of course trying to fill in holes of, oh, now I have
Yeah.
to go get Dark Side of the Moon, and now I have to buy the Wall.
Of course.
College students are poor, so you're
Yes,
limited
they sure
resources.
are.
So
Yeah.
but John, it's been a good time talking to you about Howard Jones and Dream into Action, and I just want to give you a chance to tell people where they can find you on the internet.
Yeah, I am most active on Facebook. That's where I do most of my engagement. I'm on Twitter, but I'm barely. I can't. I had to delete the app from my phone because it's just been making me too angry lately.
Mm.
Um, I come and go with Twitter that way. So I might see it if you sent me something on there, but I might miss it. I'm new to Instagram. My daughter manages our Instagram page, and I tell her what to post, and she posts it. So if that's your way of doing things, then find us on there. But yeah, we've got almost 550 episodes. Well, 550 definitive Tuesday. That every episode, our episodes come out every Tuesday. There's another like 200 bonus episodes with former guests will come on and we'll deep dive one of their albums, go track by track, or I'll have on an author or whatever, a documentary maker, filmmaker, whatever it might be.
Mhm.
Just if you're new to the show, if you don't know me already, there's tons of stuff. I would just go into the archive and see. We cover every genre, every decade. Well, 70s, 80s, 90s mainly, but you're bound to find somebody you like on there. And if you like my style and you like the interview, then you'll find more.
All right. It's called the Hustle Podcast. Thank you, Jon Lamoreaux, for being my guest. And I thank you for coming back on. Thank you for your time. It's always fun to talk to you.
Anytime, anytime. Love it.